Shalom. First of all, I'd like to start by giving all praises and glory due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to the Archeum doing this work in sincerity and in truth. My name is Marth Kwam. This video is going to be entitled The Beginning of Sorrows, Commercial Decline, and Store Closures. Basically, right now, what we're seeing on the screen is, to name a few, these are stores, big commercial businesses going into administration, being that they either can't pay their creditors or they are not meeting their aims in business and can't pay their shareholders, staff, and etc. So they're trying to hold what they can or salvage what they can from that business by either closing down stores or job loss, which in itself, job loss is only going to lead to, blame, whether it's towards the political leaders, people running the country, and also to non-British nationals or foreigners. Even though a lot of those foreigners bring in or keep the economy going by setting up little local businesses in place of those big store closures, all right, such as little vegetable stores, food stores. When you go in there, it's usually these foreign people, all right, in these so-called white areas that open these businesses, man, in place of these closed, empty buildings. It's not these Edomites, but Esau's always looking for someone to blame anyway. But yeah, their local economy wouldn't be nothing without these people opening businesses in place of these empty buildings. So anyway, a couple of points to mention. It's a sign of the pound being tight. Going back to the Brexit issue, that caused the pound to be weaker and weaker. And if you go into the news articles, recent ones, since what's his name, Boris Johnson's gone into become Prime Minister, the pound's become even more weaker. All right. In which, when you see these taxes upon products and so forth, there's hidden taxes, and the way they hide it is through the products themselves on the shelves, by either the packaging, reducing the quality of what you're paying for or the quantity of what you're paying for, in which the price can be reduced or the price can be increased. And more people are becoming more conscious of spending. Another point I wanted to make is these store closures are evidence of poverty, the growth in poverty between and the distance between the rich and the poor. A lot of these companies have been making a lot of money for such a long time and sold everything there is needed to sell, adverse sales, to the point where people either have everything they need or can't afford to consume anymore. Another thing is civil instability. Like I said, because of job loss, people are looking for people to blame, and that's going to only lead to more protests and civil instability. Bear with me for a moment. Yeah, like I was saying, the UK right now has a loss of hope, and that hope is being diminished, and evidence of it is through these job losses by the hundreds, and store closures. Now let's look at a few of these articles. It says 2/3 of the House of Fraser stores might close down. That's where you get your Best Buy clothes, and these high shelf and pricey tagged clothing, you know. But a lot of things, people these days are making do. They're going to Primark and these cheaper stores. The quality is shit. Salakia, but it is poor. But at the end of the day, it's affordable. So these people are struggling to stay competitive. Let's go to the next article. You got Tesco to cut 4,500 jobs across 153 metro stores. Where are all these people gonna go, man? Job center? HSBC removes CEO announces that's plans to cut 4,000 jobs. So these people who have mortgages, you can expect a lot of foreclosures, man. And that affects so many people's lives. Those people who are renting to other people, they at the end of the day, they're gonna lose their mortgages, lose their livelihoods, and it's gonna affect the economy as a whole. It's a lot of people's lives ruined. Waitrose to axe 7 more stores, putting 700 jobs at risk. First Pound World store closures to claim 242 jobs at the end of the week. And lastly, these are only a few, the drop in the bucket, so to speak. This is a trend with many commercial businesses, and it's only forecast to get worse. The Titanic shipyard, Harland and Wolff to go into administration. I believe they built the famous Titanic, but even they're suffering from the economic downturn and the changes with the time. Okay, let me put this on charge. There we go. So a lot of companies and brands are suffering, and it's only a matter of time before the people react and demonstrate their discomfort. So let's see what other points I wanted to make. Alright, so summarizing, all this affects the British economy, and has an effect nationally and internationally, because it makes people look at Britain as weak and shake their head and just say, look, man, we're not going to invest in Britain anymore. We're going to invest in other countries. And we've seen evidence of that, because a lot of companies are pulling from Britain and moving to other parts of the world, whether it be EU or whatever. All right, big companies are closing up and shifting. And like you can see, a lot of those companies employ a large amount of people, and all those people have mortgages and whatever livelihood they had, and spent their whole life working towards it, and stand to lose everything. People ain't gonna just tuck tail and go home. There's gonna be a uprising of the people because of that. my last point to make is, war is beginning to look like more of a promising prospect to offset the economic downturn. So they're gonna have to go into war to to basically fix this debt, this national debt, and also to bring stability to the economy. Um, just a few precepts to mind. I'll go to 1 Corinthians 7:31. It says, "And they that use this world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passeth away." And that's evident, the way of consumerism and people having a careless life and not living according to what their budget is and just always getting credit on everything. Debt, whether you have a house, debt, which pretty much everybody can't afford to buy a house cash. But then it accumulates the more credit you take out, in which in this society you're encouraged to have credit, to build up your credit score and the trust. But that only leads people into a situation where they just consume, not realizing that they're spending more than what they earn, until they can't buy any more stuff or consume, but they're just in debt and they lose everything that they work for. All right, so that spirit of consumerism is out the window. The more the poorer get poorer. The majority of people in the UK are poor. So let's go to my next scripture, which is 2 Ezra 16:21. It says, "Behold, victuals, all right, that's your best byproducts, shall be so good cheap upon earth." All right, and pretty much, you even see Pound World going into administration. So everything has a cheap price, or had a cheap price, but then you're starting to see that inflation, and also even the what's it minimum what's that minimum income, whatever you call it, man. The certain amount of money you can minimum wage, that's it, Salakia. Yeah, minimum wage every year is being increased because to combat the expensive pricing of things, the cost of living. And it's just difficult. Even though they increase it, it's not enough for the increase in price of products. So again, I'll read it. "Victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case." So while they was spending and getting that credit, they thought themselves to be in good case. But then, even then shall evils grow upon earth. So things are just getting worse and worse, whether it's on an economic standpoint or international relations standpoint. And World War III is looking like more promising and promising in the news every day. But we know, according to the Spirit, that not only is it promising, it's prophecy. And it will happen, because the Heavenly Father's word doesn't return unto him void. But I'm just saying it for, these, from the perspective of these non-believers. They're having to admit to themselves that World War III is the only way that they're gonna survive. If they can get some sort of stimulus and steal as they do, when these things start to happen. It says, evil grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. All right, and it's highly possible that if things continue, not only from these big commercial businesses, but on a local economy standpoint, if those businesses also take a nosedive, then we're gonna see a highly likely situation of famine in the UK. And to be fair with you, even those local economies can't feed the populace of the country. It takes these big commercial companies to import the food, in which these companies are taking a closure. If there's a situation where food can't come in, then a lot of people, well, those shelves are going to be empty. Right, and a lot of people are going to suffer, because where there's no food, price goes up of whatever is there, and people losing their jobs, can't afford food, only have one choice to make, which is to steal. So from here, let's go to Matthew 24. Let's wrap it up real quick. Matthew 24. And this is the third verse. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? Right, so the disciples asked the Lord, when shall the things that he was saying come to pass? And what shall be the sign of thy coming? All right, and the end of the world. All right, because they knew that there was going to come a time of the end of the so-called white man's rulership. All right, and where we would be back in the authority seat. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumours of wars, all right, which we're seeing in the news. All right, loads of opposition between different countries, Russia, Iran versus UK, Britain, and the US, and other miscellaneous or, adversaries between the named. It says, See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. All right, so I'm going to read verse 7. It says, For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. All right, so you're going to, like I said in the title, man, this is a sign of the beginning of sorrows to come to pass. And World War III is the only option that the UK or Britain has in order to find some sort of economic stimulus and stability. Otherwise, them sorrows, which are going to happen, are going to take hold of the British public. Famines, pestilences, earthquakes in diverse places. What was I going to say as well? I can't remember what I was going to say. But with that, I hope you brothers were edified. Until the next video, I'm going to stay shalom.